Okay, so today we're going to talk about switching from Mac to, from PC, I almost said from Mac to PCs, from Windows to Mac. My name is Pam Lefkowitz. I own Core Computing Technologies. I'm from Chicago. It's a small IT consulting firm. We do everything from helping people decide what platform they're going to use and setting up their networks, to support, post-support installation, post-support, managed services, you name it, pretty much, we're an all-purpose shop. I've been in business for nearly 20 years now. I do a little bit of technology. I was the first female certified in OS 10 in the country. Did you know that, John? And I'm probably one of the only people who holds every certification in OS 10 except for the people who actually wrote the training and do the training. My Twitter handle is always DNS because it is. So today, we're going to talk about moving from Windows to Mac. This session is not going to be for the user. It's going to be for you, the admins, because we all know how to click a mouse. The user might not, but we all know how to do that. We're going to need two sets of skills in this, because moving from Windows to Mac or any IT function really isn't just about the technology. Technology is great, but if you don't know how to translate that technology to something your users know, you're not going to be doing really well in this. So we want to be able to do you're going to need soft skills and you're going to need hard skills, and it's really important that you take those soft skills just as much to heart as the actual technology. I would love to say that everybody here knows, just by the nature of being a geek, how to move from Windows to Mac. Both sides of the OS, we can do it all because we're just great. But we're not. In fact, there are a lot of things that come up that Windows admins do that Mac admins, they make Mac admins actually want to run around and slash their wrists. So we're going to do just a couple of really quick pet peeves. That. Capital M, capital A, capital C. That's a Mac, but it's not a Mac computer. That's a Mac, but that's not a Mac computer. In this case, it stands for Media Access Control. Wikipedia calls a cap M, cap A, cap C a uniquely identifying network address assigned to network interfaces for communications on the physical network segment. In other words, a Wi-Fi or an Ethernet's a network hardware address. And this is we can always tell who the Windows admins are because this is how they spell it, cap M, cap A, cap C, when it's really Mac, which stands for Macintosh from Apple. It's all related. So it rolls, it's got upper and lowercase. Make us Mac admins happy and use it properly. This is 10. It's not Mac OS X, it's Mac OS 10. And we can prove that because if you go into Terminal and you type, say, Mac OS X, she will say Mac OS 10. Xing out. Everybody here has used that phrase if you're in the Windows world. Xing out is how you close Windows how you can actually close applications in Windows, right? You X out of the last window, it shuts down the app. On the Mac, it doesn't do that. And I know that sounds like a really nitpicky little thing, but it's really, really frustrating to go ahead and try to update software when you haven't closed all your windows completely, or when you haven't quit your application. So you do the application menu quit, or Command Q, to actually quit an application. And I promise you, you're going to run diagnostics on something one day, and it's not going to be quit because you just happened to close the last window and it didn't quit, and your diagnostics are going to be skewed. You're going to waste time. Nobody wants to waste time. Nobody wants to redo a task. Do it right the first time. Quit is quit. There was something else I wanted to say about that. Not sure what that was. So quit is quit. Make sure you. Oh, there are some applications where quit isn't where you can close the list because it's not confusing enough. There's a couple apps where if you actually do hit the red button, it's a red button that has a little X in it. On the Mac, where it actually does quit the app, so like system preferences, I can't remember all of them. It's the Apple installed apps that if you hit the red button, it'll quit the application, except for Safari, which if you hit the red button doesn't quit Safari, even though it's a built-in app. I'm not sure why. It just is. So just make sure you quit them, and then your diagnostics will go fine, your updates will be fine, but you'll be much happier. So in days gone by, it used to take forever. That's like 2 years ago, by the way. It used to take forever to move from Windows to Mac. You would have to take a hard drive, plug it into the Windows system, copy all your stuff to the Windows system, or plug it into the server, copy all your stuff up to the server, and then unplug the drive, hop on over to the Mac, plug it in, hope that that you can read everything, suck it all over, put it in the right place. This was a pain. Suck it all down from the server, plop it where it needs to go. This was a total pain and took forever, and it was never a good thing because your boss was always hanging over your shoulder, your client was always hanging over your shoulder going, well, is it done yet? Now, with the magic of Migration Assistant, it's a beautiful thing. When you start up any new Mac, you get asked to, if you want to transfer your data, you get to transfer your data from another hard drive, from another machine, from a Windows machine. Now, obviously in education, you're doing all this stuff a little bit differently. You're probably doing a lot of this stuff differently, but moving data is moving data. So you get to use Migration Assistant, you push the button. Apple, in their infinite wisdom, knows exactly how to move all the data from the Windows machine and where to plop it onto in the Mac. So there's very little work for you to have to do. And now when you have to go back and go, I didn't get every little file. So if you're going back for one or two little files, it's not a big deal. It's not the same thing as, oh, I forgot the entire music folder. Or I forgot all their pictures. Because we know for the boss, the pictures and the music are the most important parts. So once your data is on the new Mac and your client's ready to work, you're going to have to know how to translate Windows speak to Mac speak. Right. The language is close. Sometimes it's identical. It means a little bit different. But you're going to have to be able to tell your user community this is what it is today, not using the old language because they'll never find it in the old Windows language. So, by default, notice I have the clicker, but I'm not using it. My computer is today's Macintosh HD. Now, by default, Apple hides it. And I noticed in Windows, as of, I think, Vista, or maybe it was Windows 7, suddenly they're hiding the hard drive from the desktop, which to me is really annoying. I don't know about to you guys. And the first thing you do is you go in and you change the preference to put it back on the desktop, right? I do. So same thing. Macintosh hard drive is my computer. The dock. The dock is the equivalent of the taskbar or the tray. I have one client who continues to call it a tray. I've never heard that anywhere else. Is that like common? Okay. So the dock is a holder for aliases. We'll do aliases in just a little bit, but just know it's a holder for aliases. And it can be managed. If you went to any of the, I don't know if they dealt with this in any of the management classes. They didn't in the MCX class I was in yesterday, but you can manage your dock settings. So you can say a user can put it only on the top or only on the bottom or only on the left or right. You can manage what lives in that dock all the time. It's my contention that you should manage that dock sort of and let the user and merge his settings with it. So you want to manage your dock by saying these applications must always stay in the dock. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever the applications are, because the thing that I think is most annoying is when your user calls you up every single day going, I threw out Word when all they did was move it out of the dock, and it went poof, because it has that really nice poof. Yes, John?
That's actually the reason that Apple changed the dock so that you want the gravity icon.
And hold it?
50% off the length of the screen before it go away. Because they had so many people throwing away all their apps and freaking out, not understanding the mechanisms of my app is gone versus
That's.
alias.
I wondered why I was being so annoyed. Did you guys all get that? That was very cool. So that is a really annoying phone call to get. It's not so annoying the first time or even the 10th time, but somewhere around the 30th time. So manage your users' docs. Don't manage them so tight that the user can't put an app that they need in there, but manage them. Manage them and merge their preferences. Mostly, Windows control panels are our system preferences. It's where you get to all the goodies like energy saver settings and mouse settings and things like that. And you can manage those things too. But know that they're here. The command key alters the properties of a keyboard selection. The option key is the Alt key, and I noticed on more current Macs that it actually says Alt over the Option key. So Option and Alt are the same. The cool thing, I don't know if Alt does this, but the cool thing about Option is that it takes your stuff and makes it go on steroids. So if Command W, I'm a keyboard shortcut person. I don't mouse a lot. I do as much as I can with my hands on the keyboards. So if Command W is going to close a window, Option Command W is going to close all the windows in that application. So it takes what you do and puts it on steroids. Never let it be said that Macs don't hang. That is a myth. They hang. Not as often, but they hang. And the out for us is Command Option Escape most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work. But most of the time, if you click on the Finder and you do Command Option Escape, you can pull up a window that will ask you to force quit, and it'll show you the applications that are hung up. Okay, this should probably have gone in my pet peeve list. Slash. This is important because every IT admin is an amateur if they get this one wrong. A slash has the top of the slash going to the right. A backslash, the slash goes to the left. Web addresses are http:// Every time I hear an advertisement on the radio that says // I want to slap the advertisers. I want to not buy the product. So we don't use slashes, or we don't use backslashes. We use slashes. Backslashes are for Windows, or for escaping characters in Terminal. Were you guys in any of the Terminal sessions yesterday? So you use a backslash. That's really the only place we use it on the Mac side. Otherwise, it's a slash, and you don't have to say // It's just a slash. Okay. I think this is about near the end of these slides. These are self-explanatory. You guys get this, right? My documents, documents. My music is music. Okay. Windows Hourglass is like our spinning rainbow of dots, spinning beach ball. Sometimes the spinning beach ball doesn't really mean that the computer's hung. It's important that we learn patience. And it's hard when 3 seconds of computer life feels like really 10 years. But you have to be patient. Once you've given something enough time, sometimes it really means that the Mac is just thinking. And so you need to give this enough time to get out of itself and think and complete the task. And if you've given something what you feel is really a sufficient amount of time, then you can go ahead and force quit the app that seems to be hung. Sometimes it's a networking issue too. You need to think about that it could be just they can't find the network. So there's other things that are involved. It's really not necessarily that the system is crashed, but let it do its thing and then go ahead and force quit it. So remember when I said the docs was a holder for aliases? Aliases are shortcuts. Your command prompt is our terminal prompt. It's how we get to do all the really cool stuff. all the underpinnings, all the Unix. For us, it's Unix. It's how you get to the places where you can do the most damage or have the most fun. It depends on who you look at it. And software update is equivalent, I guess, to Windows Update. The nice thing is that Apple allows us to have a software update server on premise, and now we have caching servers. So we can use, for software update server, if you point your computers to your software update server, all of your Apple updates are going to come through that server. This saves your network bandwidth significantly, because it's really annoying when you have 800 machines all going out to the internet at the same time to grab down a 3 gig update, right? Not cool. But if they're all going to the server, it's not such a big deal. Caching servers is a little bit different, and sort of, I don't know if it completely eliminates the need for software update servers or not, but it does take the load off of everybody going to the internet also. Screenshots. Your user doesn't know how to describe something to you, and you're on one end of the campus and they're on the other end of the campus, and you really don't want to walk over there. So you ask them to send you a screenshot. Command-Shift-3 is going to take the entire window. Command-Shift-4 is going to give you crosshairs, so you click, drag, click, and then they can just email those. Very time-saving and very useful. We don't have lettered drives. All of our drives are mounted under /volumes. That's volumes with a capital V, because volumes with a lowercase v is completely different. The volumes directory is hidden. You can get to it. You can get to it, but it's basically hidden. All your drives are under there. If you plug in a hard drive, a USB stick, and any other media, it will mount. If it isn't already named, it's going to mount using the name of the device, like a Seagate, a Western Digital, something or other, Seagate, whatever. If it's been formatted but not named, it'll come up as Untitled. And lastly, when you rename it, you can rename those. So when you're renaming files, you don't have to right-click and choose rename. You just highlight it. It turns blue. It gets highlighted in blue, and you change the name. Naming conventions are important. We need to not use colons in the name of our files. We prefer not to use slashes in the names of our files. Those all make reference to Unix, and I'm pretty sure it still confuses the system, so we just don't do it. We stick to real letters. You knew we'd get to the security session, right? That piece. I say that what's on is off and what's off is on, because on the Mac side, everything related to allowing people into our computer is turned off by default. So we're not as afraid to be out there on the interwebs. And we won't even talk about viruses. We're just not going to go there. You guys know how to read. We've read it all. I don't have to do that. We're pretty tight on security. We allow, the Mac side allows you to easier access to security functions, certainly than it used to. It used to be really difficult to get on a VPN on a Mac. Certainly, it was hard to get on a Cisco VPN because we had to first buy the client, then we had to make sure that the client that we bought was compatible with the router that we bought. Now, not so hard. It's all built into the Mac OS. There's a built-in Cisco client. There's a built-in PPT, L2TP, etc. It all works pretty seamlessly for most VPN routers. Okay. We want to make sure that VPN is a big part of our security when we have people who work off-site. This is critical, and the Mac just makes it easy now. So did you guys ever hear of the Black Hat conference where they post your passwords and stuff on walls of shame? Yeah. I'm a big VPN person. So having it easy in the Mac is a really big deal with me. I bought that album. And yes, I said album because in 1978, that's all we had. We had 8-track. I didn't have an 8-track. I wasn't cool. So we're going to talk about accounts. This is a big topic, so hang with me here. Every Mac has at least one account on it. Has to have one account on it. When you create that first account, it's an administrative account. So I caution you to create that first account carefully. If you're doing this by hand, if you're doing this by deployment strategies, you've already built this in. Create this account carefully because you don't want to hand your user a computer that allows them to be an admin, right? The last thing we want is our users being allowed to change other people's passwords or add software or any one of a host of other things like become root. So we want to be extremely cautious when we set up this account. Fortunately, if you messed up and you set up your first user as an admin account, you create your second user as an admin account. Log in as that user, demote your first user to a standard account. Saved. Saved. So let's talk about the different account types. Since we already started to talk about them, let's talk about what they really can do. You've got your admin user. Now let's start with standard users. You have your standard users. Standard user can open up applications, they can do their email, they can basically use the system. They can change some system preferences, but not other system preferences. They can they can do what they need to do to get their job done or to get their schoolwork done. An admin user, but they can't change other people's passwords, so they can't do things that are really dangerous to the system or pretty innocuous across. Then you have an admin user, and an admin user is pretty powerful. An admin user can do anything. They can change passwords, they can change energy saver settings, which may or may not be an issue for you guys. They can change the things that matter. They can also become root in the terminal. Now this is really, really, really important, guys. Root is dangerous, to say the least. It is our third kind of user. So the root user can do everything without question, without punishment. It can wipe your drive. It can hack everything that's in. You don't want this. So you don't want your users as admin users. Okay, we're really clear on this. No admin users for users. Fortunately, by default, root is disabled. So you can't log in at the login screen as root. Yay. You can enable the root user if you need to. Caution you not to do this unless you are highly skilled and really sure of every single keystroke you make on a computer. I think I found it necessary to enable root for about a week in all my OS 10 time. Not necessary. It's really not necessary. Don't do it. Just don't do it. The administrator account. Let's talk about this a little bit. Talk about naming conventions. Your administrator account. Administrator is a function, not a name. Say that again. Administrator is a function, not a name. We want to protect ourselves. We want to make sure that we don't give the bad guys a chance to get into our computers. So when have any of you ever seen have anybody ever seen an attack on a system? Actually watched the logs go through and seen somebody try to attack? All right, so what do you see? You see that they try, a host of different names that are pretty logical. They try user, guest, and test. They try administrator and admin. All the usernames that are common. So while security through obscurity really isn't security, it helps just a little bit. So we don't want to name our administrator account administrator. Call it whatever else you want to call it. Call it PSU admin. Call it anything. But if we give them one less thing to hack that's hackable, we've gotten ourselves one more step removed from being in trouble. So administrator is not a name, it's a function. I actually had a client who, bless you, I had a client who was doing some testing and he set up a test account called user on his server with the password of user. And then he opened up the port for file sharing to the internet. And he called me up. I didn't know he did this, because if I'd have known, I didn't know he did this. And he calls me up one day and he goes, he called me up at like 7:30 in the morning. I was not ready. And he goes, Pam, our server's empty. I said, what do you mean our server's empty? I said, our server's empty. So I got in and remoted into his server, and lo and behold, the server was empty. Everything on his RAID gone. And not everything. You could see the files disappearing. One by one, the directory was gone. It was amazing. So I said, well, we need to see what this is. And I looked, and I could see the dictionary attack. And as soon as they hit user, all the names that they tried, right? As soon as they hit the name user, it was like, boom, in, IRC bot. It took like 2 seconds after they accessed for this thing to become a full-blown bot. And of course, he had given this account administrative access. So as soon as they had administrative access, somebody roots in. It was wonderful. It was so much fun. So we fortunately had set up 2 servers, and we just shut that one down, turned on the other one, and all his stuff was back because I'm really neurotic about backups. But needless to say, he doesn't play on his servers anymore. He turns all his, now he's a tech. This is the cool part. Now he's a tech and he works with me, and he sends all server work to me. So it's a lot of fun. So there's 3 users. There's a standard user, the admin user, and the root user, right? No, there's actually a 4th user. It's your guest user. And your guest user account is an amazing. John loves the guest user account. It's a great account because when you're done, you can't do anything really. You can work on some documents. You can save it to the server if you have an ID to get onto the server. But you can't save anything locally. And as soon as you're done using the guest user account and you log out, it's erased. So nobody was there. So it's a really nice account to use for kids who don't need to save things locally on the desktop. They don't need to have home directories necessarily. It's a great account to use. Okay, might be going a little bit too far. But I really do, I'm amazed at how well the Active Directory works with the Mac. It does a really fine job of authentication, authorization for Mac and services for Mac. I remember when it didn't. So it's really kind of pleasant. I don't have a problem going into environments now and working with AD administrators, assuming they set up their DNS correctly. It works really well. And the Macs do a really yeoman's job of integrating into your Active Directory network. So they play together very nicely. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a little bit. Registered trademark of core computing. Just so you know. Are you guys using Mac servers? You're all using Windows servers? Using no servers? Unix servers. I didn't even think about that. Awesome. Cool. So, Open Directory is the LDAP directory service that Apple's implemented in OS X. it, like its Active Directory counterpart, is responsible for your authorization and authentication on a basic level. We could spend days talking about directory services, and we're not going to. Apple has classes. Apple training facilities run classes on directory services. They have multi-day classes. So I think what we'll do is we'll talk about the parts of the integration that are going to really matter, and I think for the big picture, I'm going to encourage you to take some of those training facility classes. So every Mac has an LDAP domain built into it. The built-in domain is called the local KDC, or the LKDC. The network domain is the one that's either found on the Mac server, Mac OS X server, your Open Directory server, or it's the one found in the Active Directory server itself. Were you guys in the Bash? No, the MCX session yesterday? Did anyone go into that? Yeah, that's where you talked about using different directories, or maybe you didn't need a server at all, right? That was the purpose of that. So if you're using the Active Directory domain in Workgroup Manager, you'll see it there. But if you're creating your own, you see your directory structure in Workgroup Manager, the one that you've created. That's going to be a worthwhile thing for you guys to watch. Excuse me. Your Mac is able to bind either to your Active Directory or your Open Directory server, your Mac OS X Open Directory server, using the accounts preference pane. So it is in there, and when you open up the accounts preference pane, you'll see a directory services button. And you'll click that, and you'll go in and you'll bind your Macs. It's a whole bunch of clicks. So your command line method would be to use dsconfig.ad. dsconfig.ad. You can use directory utility. Once you've been in there in the GUI, you can use your directory utility for managing and manipulating lots of attributes for binding your computers to the directory server. Unfortunately, if you want to edit your group memberships for Active Directory users, you do have to do that in Active Directory. You can't do that on a Mac. So you still have to touch both sides of this fence. So some of the things you get to think about when you are binding your Macs to the AD. You get some choices, and these choices are going to greatly impact your network and how your computers behave on the network, how they talk to each other. These choices are not exclusive, so they're not mutually exclusive. You can choose more than one of them. You get an option to create a mobile account at login. This choice creates a local home folder, local meaning on the computer itself. If you're using roaming profiles, it allows you to have a home folder on both the server and the computer, which allows you to take that computer off the network and still log in. Your force local home option forces the home directory to be on the computer and not on the server. So authentication is going to come from Active Directory, but your files are going to be stored local on the computer. You want to disable this option if you're using purely home directory, pure network home directories, excuse me, where the home directory is stored only on the server, and the home directory is the profile. It's the user's, my documents and all those folders. Use UNC path from Active Directory is the choice that you use to derive the network home location. It allows the user to get the home folder from the Active Directory profile. And thankfully, Apple's created an integrating Active Directory PDF on their site. I think we get the slides afterwards. Do we not? Okay, so that'll be on the slides. Can I go? You're typing. Can I go? Tell me when I can go after you've got it up. Okay? So what are we going to do to make you guys a star in this brand new world? You're going to expand your horizons. How are you going to do that? You're going to learn Unix. Kind of. This is so much fun. This is like the Wayback Machine. Because OS X has Unix underpinnings, my single most important piece of advice is that you do learn Unix. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to learn a lot of Unix, but you got to learn some stuff. And you have to learn how to interpret them. Just knowing how to type the command in means nothing if you don't understand what the results mean. So lots of books on this topic. I'll list them all later. You probably already know a lot of Unix and you don't even realize it. And I'm going to give you a word of caution here. When you're learning this, don't practice on your production machine. Just say it. How else can you find your set up a VM, get another machine, get some old machine somewhere, and don't practice on your home machine. Ping is ping is ping. You guys all know this command, right? You used it. You're administrators. You've pinged something. IF, gotta get this one right. Ifconfig, because I never spell it out. Ifconfig is the same as the Windows ipconfig. We have an ipconfig, but it's not the same thing. So ifconfig is the same as the Windows ipconfig. ls on its own is going to give you a simple list. When you start adding attributes after it, options after it, you can learn all sorts of goodliness about your directories. PWD is going to tell you where you are. It's super easy to get lost in the directory structure once you've been moving from directory to directory, so PWD is your friend. CD is CD. See, are you surprised how much Unix you already knew? And our trace route is your trace RT. It tells you, do I have a path to get from here to there? There's lots of books on Unix, and there's a number of books on Unix for OS X. I have those titles at the end of the presentation. So some days you're the bat, and some days you're the ball, right? Let's try to stay the bat. Now I'm going to caution you. Half of you are going to listen to me, and the other half aren't. For those of you who aren't going to take me seriously today, my email is pam@Core Computing, and I have contracts available. Responsible admins don't let their users be administrators. Okay? They don't name their accounts administrator. They don't let their users be administrators. So, are y'all going to go back and set up your first accounts as administrator anymore? No, you're not, because you don't want to be hacked. Responsible IT admins never enable the root user. For reals. Don't do it. I promise you there is no good reason to enable root and every reason in the world not to. You are sure it's going to make your life easier because you don't have to sudo or you don't have to figure out a way to be, just don't, it's going to bite you at some point. .local. I know that .local is better today than it was a couple years ago, but really, guys, this is not a domain name. This is not DNS. It is fake DNS. If you need to have an internal DNS range for your networks that is not, obviously not public, and you can't use a .com or I can't come knocking on your door. So you have to figure out something else. Don't use .local. Use .private, .lan, .ed. It doesn't matter. Well, you can't really use .ed, but you can. Yeah. But I was thinking edu. But you might not want to. You use .marzac. That's fine. Everybody use .marzac. But really don't use .local. All of your applications should reside in your root level. That's what the slash is. The slash is the root. So Macintosh HD is your root, Macintosh HD applications. So all of your applications should stay in your applications folder that's at the root level. Why? Because software updates like to find their application in the right directory, and they really like them to be in applications. And even though each home folder has an applications folder in it so your users can have applications, we really don't want to use that, and you can restrict that using managed preferences. You can restrict the use of that. Why don't we want to use that? Because we don't want users installing applications that aren't approved. We don't want users installing BitTorrent apps. We don't want users installing peer-to-peer file sharing apps. It causes lots of headaches. And while we manage that at the network level, we don't allow it. Just don't allow it at the computer level. Typically, we want to disable open safe files in Safari because there is some bad stuff that can happen. But maybe what you really want to do is make 2 builds of your OS and have one OS for the adults where open safe files isn't enabled, and for the kids, don't let them open the open file. You know, just let the kids be restricted and let the adults have the freedom to open things. Or maybe really you want it the opposite, where the kids can open whatever and the adults have to be managed a little more. I'm not sure how savvy your adults are. The kids tend to be a little more savvy. So that these are some of the practices that we put in place with our clients, and really our clients don't have issues with stupid stuff happening. One more. In mail, automatically turn off, automatically their images. Actually, that's really good. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Sometimes things break. And when they do, we need to know what to do. We need to have an arsenal of tools to solve most problems as quickly as possible. Why? Because we really don't, even those of us who charge by the hour, really don't want our clients suffering for a long period of time. It makes us look bad. So we're going to go over a short list of arrows that I consider most important in my quiver. Safe boot. When you boot the computer into safe boot mode, you hold down the Shift key. It will turn off all extensions, all system files, all startup items, all login items. It'll leave on just enough to let your system boot. You use this when you've installed something that you think may have broken your Mac. So safe boot will allow, if the problem doesn't go away, then you have a deeper problem. If when you've safe booted the problem goes away, then you kind of know, undo the last thing you did. Hi, Ed. It also forces disk check. That's right. I always forget that. Thank you. So if your disk is in trouble anyhow, that might fix it. Preferences. Common school of thought is if this happens in one user account but not another user account, it's something in your preferences file, which is in the library, which is now hidden because users shouldn't get to the library file because it can be destructive. So in your home folder preference library file, you take that preferences file and you plop it on the desktop. And then you reboot. If the problem doesn't go away, put the folder back because that's not where the problem is. If the problem does go away, your problem is somewhere in your preference file, and now you get to perform split half searches, which is so much fun. Do you guys know does anybody not know what a split half search is? Don't be shy. Okay. So a split half search is you take half of the files, leave them, half the files, put them back. Reboot, try it again. If the problem is broken still, take half of the remaining files, put them back, leave the other half out, reboot. And you go through that until you've narrowed it down to the 1 or 2 files that are breaking your system. So split half search. I thought we were going to get away from that when we got into OS 10 because we didn't have extensions anymore, but no. No such luck. Console. Need the live action footage? This is where you find it. Console is all of your logs. These are really valuable. I will be honest, I don't know how to read all my logs. When I really need to know what a log really means, I call Ed. I can't read this. What's it mean? But a lot of times, even if I don't understand what the log is actually saying to me, there's enough in it that I can get a guidance as to where I might look next. And that's really all you're looking for. You're following the trail. So use your log files. They're a great place to go. You need to do them from the administrator side because your system logs won't show up in your user side. But use console. It's a beautiful thing. Terminal. The name alone is enough to strike fear in the hearts and minds of superheroes. I'm here to tell you, though, you really need to get comfortable with this. It's going to save your butt. Some of the commands you're going to want to know. We talked about dsconfig.ad before. If you use the -show option, it's going to talk to you about your current configuration, your current Active Directory configuration. You're going to use ping a lot. It's going to show you if a device is alive on the network. Traceroute is going to show you what your path is from here to there, and if you indeed have a path. I'm sure Mouse doesn't know. There we go. Netstat prints your network connections and routing tables and your interface statistics. It's going to show you if anything's listening on a port that you're investigating or listening for a service that you're looking for. You'll use SSH to gain secure access to another computer, and you'll use Telnet to test a service, whether service is active or not on another computer. Telnet is not a default service that we use. We do everything with SSH, but Telnet is really useful for testing services. Network utility takes care of a lot of those commands. So you can look for, you can do ping, traceroute, netstat, look up your DNS information in network utility. Find tool. Finally, as of Lion, we have a recovery disk. Love recovery disk. Boot your system with the option key held down, and you get into the boot picker, and you get a choice of your hard drives, what hard drive you want to boot from. You want to boot from your internal drive, or you want to boot from your recovery drive. Well, when you choose the recovery drive, you get the options of opening up terminal, or doing disk utility to repair permissions, or run disk repair. And you get the option to reinstall your OS from there too. So it's a great tool. It's a great tool. I don't have to carry around a load of disks with me anymore as long as my client's on the current operating system. So now that you have some of the tools to get started, you're really going to get ready to transition. What about your clients? Are they ready? I made this up. And I'm just going to let you read them. So that last stage is the one where you start learning to speak Chinese because you are so bored you have nothing else to do. And I actually am serious. I'm fairly serious about this. We did a big switch client a couple of years ago, and it's the one that put us sort of on the map in Chicago for being the house that does all the switches. Yeah. They didn't want to switch. The owner, the head attorney of the firm wanted to do the switch, and nobody else really in the company did. But he got his way, and we replaced all their systems in one fell swoop with Macs and Mac servers, and it was a joyous occasion. But they actually went through all these things, and one client in particular, I don't think ever got out of the anger stage. Even though we got him parallels and we tried, it was some of it was a mess, but yeah, they really did go through all of these stages, and after the first month, my calls went from 2 or 3 a day to nothing. So it really does go through a phase. How do you get them, all the way to happy? We go to the most favorite part of every IT administrator's day, training. Because we all love to train, right? Yeah. This does not come naturally to a lot of us. We are not born trainers. If we are born IT admins, we're typically not born trainers. And that's okay, because I don't love to train myself. I don't mind doing this, but I don't like the one-on-one. This is a mouse, and this is how you click, this is how you double-click. Not my thing. But I do it. Why do I do it? Because it makes my job easier. There's no way around it. You have to train people. We need to talk with our customers about the culture shock. There will be culture shock for them. Has anybody here not done the move yet or is getting ready to do the move to Mac? No, everybody's done it already. Smooth. So you know that when everybody switched, there was a big culture shock, right? They were like, I can't do this. Where's the... Just be sensitive to it. Be sensitive to it. Embrace their fear. Let them know it will go away. It'll be fine. Let them know that there's going to be a transition period. I don't know how transitioned you guys are, but if they're still fairly new, it could take a few weeks for this to happen. And let them know that they're going to be lost for a while. We did, when we did this big switch, we gave these users 2 days of training. And what we did, because it was small enough, I had a team, there were 4 of us, and we did 4 hours training in the morning, and then in the afternoon we spent the 4 hours doing small group training, live action on their computers. So we took them through the tasks that they were going to do for the day. And after a couple of days, this actually worked out really well because they're much more familiar. They got the broad overview, and then they got the sort of the one-on-one stuff. You want to describe the moves without prejudice. This is hard. We have to take our feelings about our favorite OS, whatever that is, and put it aside. We need to be able to just describe the facts, and frankly, it's the same thing in a different color. It's not so different. Show them that what used to be on the left side is now on the right side. That's very factual. It's not emotional. It's not judgmental. It just is. You want to make it easy on them? Show them the mouse. Let them play with a magic mouse. Show them that we have a right click. I swear, I still have customers coming from Windows who think we have a single button mouse with no right click. It's amazing. And if you have trackpads or magic trackpads, show them gestures because they're fun. Where did I have it at the bottom of this? Hello. It's gone. Some of the tricks that we have employed to train our switchers is obviously we train to the similarities so that it avoids people freaking out. By that I mean teach them that this is Microsoft Office. Word is Word is Word. Excel is Excel. It doesn't matter. Once they're using Word or Excel or whatever their Firefox, pick the app. It's the same on the Mac. Basically, it's the same on the Mac as it is on the PC. And once they've gotten comfortable with that, they're going to be comfortable using the rest of the operating system because they're going to know where the menus are. They're going to know that they look the same. iTunes. We use iTunes. It's our favorite training tool because everybody gets it. So you guys are going to think I'm nuts. But in this situation, at this switcher, we knew what we were walking into. We knew we were walking into a bunch of people who didn't want to do this. So we are not beyond bribing. It's okay. We bought a bunch of the itty-bitty little iPods, and we gifted everybody in that company an iPod. Now, this caused a couple of things to happen. One, they liked us. We gave them something. They were happy. Woo, we got a present. And two, they all wanted to use it. Well, on the fleas, what were they called? The shuffles, thank you. We call them fleas. I'll find the movie. Look up the iPod flea. There's a movie out there on it. It's awesome. So the iPod Shuffle has no controls. You can't see what's happening with it. So you have to plug it in to make it work. Once you plug it in, you have to have something to put on it. So we were able to walk them through using iTunes to get music, rip their music into iTunes, move the music onto the iPod. They were trading things. They were like, "Can I see your?" It was amazing how that one little thing caused them to have such comfort in the operating system they were really not wanting to use. It was great. So bribery works. You want to make sure that you do things that will make their lives in transition easier. You let them know all the apps that they love or hate, frankly, are basically still here. Show them the dock. Show them that the dock is like the taskbar. It'll make it more familiar to them. If they're used to having their taskbar hidden, hide the dock. Same thing. Show them Launchpad. I don't get Launchpad, I will be honest. Not my thing. I don't like it. I don't use it. But users love it. It's a screen with all their apps, and all they have to do is go to that screen and click the app, and it's right there. Show them how to connect to their shares. This is really important because nothing's more critical to users than I can't find my work. Show them step by step how to connect to their shares. And if you have traveling users, show them how to connect to the VPN. Go to Starbucks with them, buy them a coffee, show them how to connect to the VPN, and then show them how to get to their shares through the VPN. Okay? These are really important because you can't test the VPN from inside, right? So you got to go somewhere. So it's party time. We're all going to the local Starbucks to test our VPN connection and overload the Starbucks wireless. There's lots and lots of other things to teach them, obviously, but I find, and I do a lot of switching clients, I find that if I cover these things, it takes care of most of the headaches, and the users are typically more comfortable. Oh, and printing. Print something. Don't walk away from the systems without printing successfully, okay? You gotta do that. There are, we could spend days on deploying Macs. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of good tools for this, and there's tons of sessions on these things. So just briefly, we've got System Image Utility, which is free from Apple. We've got Deploy Studio and Instant Image. There's the Batch Apple ID Creator that you will, I'm sure, have to use at some point. There's the Create OS 10 install package from Greg Neagle, which, of course, nobody's heard of at all during this conference because it's only been mentioned in every single session. But other sessions are dealing with deployment, so you're going to get all that in there. This is a lot like herding cats. So when we want to manage there's, again, lots of tools for managing your Macs, which you're getting all of them in here. There's all sorts of MCX and Monkey and Puppet, and I use a lot of VPN, ARD, Apple Remote Desktop over VPN to manage my clients. I also use Absolute Manage. Yes, John, we will talk. Which is cross-platform. Autotask is cross-platform. FileWave is cross-platform. Puppet, Monkey, Casper. These are all tools that are being talked about ad infinitum here. I've been doing this for 20 years, and while some people think I'm really kind of smart, there's a lot more people who are a lot more smarter than me. The important thing for me is that I know where to find the answers. You guys don't need to have all of the answers. You have to appear like you have all the answers, because it is better to look good than to feel good. You need to have the appearance, at least, of knowing all the answers. You need to know where to find them. These are the places that I go when I need to find the answers. They're not the only places, But these are the places I start with. These are all amazing people. Apple's K-base is pretty intricate. You can find most of what you need when it's a real Apple issue. Training.apple.com. If you haven't gone to training classes, go to training classes. Mac Windows, when you're working in... That's a little bit difficult to get around, Mac Windows site, but there is some really valuable information. Rich Troughton, who did the File Vault 2 session. Brilliant, man. Charles Edge, brilliant. AFP 548, is that Nate Walcott runs that now? And, who runs it with Nate? I can't remember. Sorry. ManagingOS10.wordpress.com, I believe that's Greg Nagel's site. Also brilliant. There are books. Learning Unix for Mac OS 10 by Taylor. It's an O'Reilly book. Mac OS Command Line, Unix Under the Hood by McElhern. Mac Kung Fu, while it's a silly title, it's a really good book. Also an O'Reilly book. It's the Pragmatic Bookshelf. It's a different publisher, I guess, within O'Reilly. All of the Peach Pit Training Series books, buy them, read them, love them. And pretty much any book that's in the O'Reilly selection that has Mac or Unix in it, you'd probably want to read. I have read them all, and they're worthwhile. So there we go. What do we got? Questions? Comments? Questions? I don't ever want to move away from Windows. Yeah. Oh, I need to get a microphone here. Oh, sure. Now I gotta figure out how to turn it on. I'll just come here. Okay.
Pam, I have two specific but different questions. One is that, first of all, I'm in higher ed, so nobody's forcing anybody to use a Mac. They can choose one if they want.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we've had to do is we've had to migrate people from Windows and migrate their data. The migration assistant that Apple has for Windows, at one point they had Windows XP up saying that it worked with it. Basically, the genius at the local Apple store said, it just really doesn't work very well. And I think the next time I looked at the slide, I thought that they took Windows XP away from the migration. We never had any good luck with it. So at any rate, I thought that maybe you might have a list of favorite locations of where things are on the Windows side and where to move them into on the Mac side.
That would have been a good idea. I don't have that.
Okay. Second question. I have a number of Windows users who would probably move to Macs if with VPN access, they had access to compliant storage, health records, things like that. Right now, the VPN that we're using, apparently with Cisco, only gives access to compliant storage for Windows clients, doesn't work with Macs. Got any solutions there?
I think somebody needs to petition Cisco. I'm not sure that's an Apple issue so much as a Cisco issue.
Okay. That's it.
I could be wrong. I don't know the answer for you. I'm sorry. No? Tired? Hungry? Oh. Well, okay. There we go.